promise. There it is.
Yeah.
So any other sources of video are not an actual transcript or meeting notes for this meeting. Okay, I have to give that little plug for every meeting now. So, well, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm happy to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about crime in Teller County, and I'm going to open up to general questions. So what I want to do is just kind of give you the updated crime statistics, what really is happening in the county, kind of where we sit as a county, because what I'm finding is we're growing in leaps and bounds. So there are a lot of changes in the county. So just to kind of understand where we're at, in the last year, we found that we were around 38,000, almost 39,000 calls for service in the county. That's actually a lot, right? That's a lot of calls for service. So we really started looking into, well, why are we seeing these types of changes in the county? When I started here, we were about 7,500 people in the county. So now we're sitting right around that 28,000, I think more towards 30 or over. I think the last census didn't do real well. It just is what it is. How many people actually had a census worker come to your house during the last census? Yep, that's what I'm finding all over the county, right? So I think we're just seeing a lot of change because it was during COVID and it just did not get done the way it should have been done. So we have seen exponential growth. It's just not identified. What does that mean for us? Well, I will tell you that we have major calls for service, minor calls for service, and really kind of a low spectrum of calls for service. Our major crimes for service is something like a homicide, attempted homicide, an assault, a sexual assault, those types of crimes. What we saw in the last year was about a 33% increase across the board in all major crimes. Well, in a county like this, that's a lot of crimes. Those are a lot of things happening. In our less than major crimes, which is what we're calling our medium priority calls, we had about another 38% increase, which that's still quite a bit also. In our low priority calls, those are called like VIN inspections, or when somebody has a low level harassment call, or something that we can normally take over the phone or we can respond to, but it doesn't take a priority piece to go to that call. Those are up about 36%. So across the board, we saw about a 30-some% increase everywhere within the county. So I get a lot of phone calls from subdivisions asking me, well, why aren't you doing traffic control in our counties? Well, here's one of the reasons we're not. We are, but we're having a hard time doing it, right? I've got 24 deputies that cover 563 square miles, 3 cities, Victor, Cripple Creek, and Willow Park, who have also struggled to have officers. And in that struggle, they're asking us to assist them, or we're taking calls, or we're doing those things to assist them because they're also citizens of Teller County, right? So there's always a need for us to be somewhere. That takes a lot. So I have 24 deputies that do that. So if you really think about it, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, we haven't really seen an increase since 2014 in personnel for patrol. We've seen an increase in our jail because we have more people in the jail, and really we have a minimum standard we have to build to make sure it's safe for everyone in there. Everybody that's incarcerated, everybody that's in there for say hello and then release, or just deputies as a whole. The other side of it too is we're just responding to a lot more violent calls. Where it used to take a deputy, one deputy, because I was one of those guys at night where I would respond, I was the only deputy on the whole county. Can't do that anymore, right? You just can't. I wouldn't expect any of these young guys or gals to go out and do that anymore. I've got great personnel, and they're highly trained, and they're very effective, but just can't have them do that. Some of these calls are rifles or handguns involved or major assaults. It takes more than one officer, especially with a lot of the new or the issues within the state where they can't use a lot of the old techniques that they have at their disposal. So it takes more deputies to have to deal with that. The other side of it is the state of Colorado is mandating so much training for us now, and there's so much training needed for a law enforcement officer for continuing education. That means that a full-time employee in this county works approximately 2,080 hours. But you know what I'm talking about? We call it an FTE. So a full-time employee will work 2,080 hours a year. Well, the problem is if I reduce that by 180 hours per officer, on top of that, I still got to give people vacations. I still got to give them time off with their families. I still have to give them time off for court because they're going to court a lot more, right? So all that, I really only have a deputy about 1,200 hours a year instead of 2,080. Because there's so much training involved. So what do I have to do? That same deputy force of 24 that I had in 2014 that was only dealing with about 14,000 calls for service is now dealing with 38,000 calls for service half the time. And they're doing well because they're efficient, but it's coming to a point where it's breaking. I'm breaking people and I don't want to do that. So we're working through those things. I'll kind of explain that here. So all these things are starting to come to a head in Colorado. Well, why is that? Well, here's what we found when we really started looking into it. The Troll, that's about 11,000 people a year that come here for that. Mueller State Park, there's about 400,000 people that come here for this. Our U.S. Forest Service, you can expect anything from about 20,000 people a day all the way up to 60,000 people a day. We have Cripple Creek, we went to 24-hour-a-day gaming, right? That was an increase. They have how many officers? 8 officers at most. Covering 24 hours a day, so they got maybe 1 person on, 2 people on at max. We had an issue a few weeks ago where a guy decided to rob a store in Colorado Springs, rob a store in Woodland Park, then he did a robbery, armed robbery, actually did Woodland Park. Cripple Creek guys see him, they have 1 officer on, 1 Colorado Division gaming guy, he rams their car, runs on them, guess who they call? We're the only substantial force in the county. So we deal with it, right? So all those things takes a lot more personnel to deal with something like that. So I'm calling guys out of bed for a SWAT team that we have that are rolling out to a scene. It's minus 20 degrees. They're going through 3 miles and through the woods trying to catch this guy, and I have to have a team of about 15 people going out and doing this. Which then increases overtime, increases comp time, so then I'm back in the bucket again trying to make sure I get enough people on duty. Why am I saying that? It may be hard to get out there to do traffic control sometimes. Right? Because it's a low priority. Do we want to see it done? Absolutely. I'm tired of being passed. Here's my problem. I don't always wear a body camera because I'm coming from a meeting and I don't have it on. In the state of Colorado, by law, I have to wear a body camera if I stop you, or I can be charged criminally. Right? So, unfortunately, I don't have the dang thing on, or it's not been charged because I've been in Denver at a legislative meeting and I've not gotten it charged all day. Probably not gonna stop anything. I just can't. So all those things are starting to create these issues that we're seeing. And it just is compounding the fact that you gotta have 3 times as many people as you want to. I talked to the commissioners last year about, hey, where are we at on the study, to identify how many people we need. We have to stop the bleed of what we're losing, right? This sheriff's office actually hasn't lost very many people. Our turnover is about less than 5% a year, which is outstanding for anywhere in law enforcement nowadays. We just don't have a lot of turnover. I think this last year, we were 2% turnover. And that was due to the unfortunate circumstance I had terminated. Right? That's going to happen in life. But the issue is that we've got good people. They're highly trained, but I had people. So this year, I and the commissioners went together. We worked out a way to pay them at what market rate is. This is the first time in Teller County's history that I know of, as being a deputy, we have ever paid market rate. Prior to this year, we were actually 40 to 60% below market rate for any deputy in the city. So unfortunately, I had guys that go down to 7-Eleven and probably make more money. Right? And they weren't getting assaulted. I wasn't having to go to the hospital every night. I wasn't having to go make sure that they're okay. So this year was the first year that we're actually paying market rate. That's beautiful. So happy I have the group of commissioners I have right now, and also a great county administrator. That has made a huge difference for us in dealing with what's happening. And it wasn't an issue for other than the fact that we just weren't there yet. County was growing. There wasn't an understanding where we really needed to be. This is where we really need to be. The unfortunate piece is I had to request another 24 positions. We haven't had an increase since 2014. So right now the commissioners are dealing with how do I get enough people to do that? Where does the money come from? And that's always an issue, right? That's every county's issue. That's always a problem. But this county is growing in leaps and bounds that we never saw 10 years ago when I came back. So 8 years ago. So we're seeing that. The good thing though is these deputies on a daily basis, they do amazing work. I gotta tell you, I have great deputies. I just can't say enough for them. This year, or last year, we were able to raise, one of the big issues is that now a deputy, when he goes out on the streets, he doesn't just wear a handgun, his handcuffs and a uniform and goes out. When I started, we had to wear the vests underneath the armor or the Under Armour type stuff, and it was rated for handguns. Well, that doesn't work anymore either, right? It's now rifle vest. I'll get into why it's rifle vest here in a minute. But here's the issue with this, is that those systems are about $2,800 a piece. And I don't want to buy just the simple cheap ones. I need to buy them the lightest, best armor I can possibly get. So last year I had a Ingram. We didn't have any of it. I was so concerned about it that I stayed up all night thinking about it. And then the next day, we get an anonymous donor that donated $189,000 to a company to provide us with what's called Angel Armor. Which to me was pretty amazing at that time. That Angel Armor is probably the best armor in the United States. It's made up by Denver, Colorado. They gave us a crazy deal on it. So now every single one of my deputies are actually armored in Angel Armor. And then the commissioners agreed that from now on, the deputies should never have to wonder when they're going to get their vest. So as soon as we hire them on, they're measured, outfitted, and then one of those vests is made for every single deputy when they come on duty. As a sheriff, I can't stop everything from happening. But what I can do is give them the best training, the best equipment in the world, so that if something does happen, I don't know, I should have done more. So that's what I'm happy about. It's nice to see them with everything they could possibly need. We continue to do that. The other great thing that's happened here in the last year is that a lot of the new deputies coming into this job, well, men and women who are just amazing people, they're from here. We're actually hiring kids who went to high school right down here in Little Park. They're coming out of the trades, pipe fitting, plumbing, framing, just everything. And they're coming to work here because they're seeing how great it is to be here. Now, for the first time, they actually have retirement. When I retired at 20 years, first time, I had $50,000 in a retirement account and I was sent out on the world. That's after 20 years of work trying to defend people again. It was horrible. So this year, the commissioners started where they're doing an 8% match for retirement, which is actually really good. So now my hope is that I have deputies that can retire 20 years after they've done good service, or 30 or however long. Cops usually don't go away. They just find another agency or they keep carrying on. So cops do. But on the other side of it too, they have great health care. I don't have to worry about a deputy that gets injured because they know they're going to be taken care of by our health care. And that's massive. So that's one of the reasons I'm starting to get so many applications. So as of last few weeks, we have hired every position in the agency. That was huge because at one point when I came back, we were down to 60 officers out of 106 staff. That's just crazy. Now we're sitting at 106 field positions, both dispatch, jail, and then patrol. And that's where we needed to be. Because prior to that, it was easier for the county not to raise because we have what's called scooping. When they take that money, they put it back into the general fund. So really, why should I hire and bring deputy wages up to where I keep them? It was really hard as a sheriff to be able to keep you because of that. Now that I have great commissioners, I don't have that issue. So huge for us. In the last year, we've dealt with multiple homicides, deadly homicides, something that Teller County's not had. I mean, I remember being a deputy, it was years before you had an actual murder in Teller County, and I remember several of them. Even in El Paso County and Colorado Springs and Pueblo, we didn't have crime like we're seeing today. It just wasn't there. So we're starting to see that. Why are we starting to see that? Well, I can tell you why we're starting to see that. There's a couple of big reasons, right? One of the big reasons is that here in the state of Colorado, we started shutting down a lot of prisons. Because what they're saying is, well, we're putting $40 million back into Colorado's budgets because we're doing rehabilitations for criminals. Well, some of those may, some of those might be. And then the state will tell you right now that recidivism is way down. Anybody know what recidivism is?
You go back.
where somebody commits another crime, they get rearrested for it, and they go back into the system. What's happening is, under parole and probation now, it's administrative. It's not a law, it's administratively done. So if I have somebody that's on probation for doing bad things, in what we used to call pee and hot, where they would pee in a cup, we would test them, and if they were hot for, or they had drugs in their system, what we call pee and hot, right? And they had methamphetamines, heroin, cocaine, any type of amphetamines, they would be reviolated on their cases. It would be a recidivism stat, and they go back into jail. What we're finding is 10, 15 times somebody can violate that, and they're not going to put them in jail. So we're not seeing recidivism, right? As a state, our numbers are way down. That's what they're telling us. But what we're really seeing, because nobody's tracking those numbers, because it's easier to hide them than it is to show the public what's really happening, that we don't have this great system they told us we have, is the fact that they're now coming into our local systems again. What does that mean for you? What it means is that under probation and state guidelines, when they get brought back into a county jail, I recharge them with a crime. Now they have to go through the whole process, court proceedings, staying in our jail, and then that means you, the taxpayer, has to pick up the dime. It's county, right? It's now a county charge, so they go back to Department of Corrections. Now, they go to the Department of Corrections, and they're given parole. Same thing's happening in parole. I'm kicking them loose on parole, saying, hey, don't violate charges, we'll put you back in jail, because then it would be a recidivism stat if we did. Well, they're not doing that. So what's happening is I've got guys that we are chasing, coming up here from Pueblo, Denver. We had 2 car pursuits last year. Gentlemen on parole, multiple time offenders, shooting at my deputies, crashing their cars, shot multiple deputies in Colorado Springs. I'm sorry, out of Fremont County. Come the back way, they crash a car, break into a house. We have to use drones and send out deputies, and we're doing all that to catch these people so that they don't continue to create havoc and hurt somebody. And then they're released right back. Why? We don't want to violate the parole because it shows a statistic. And you're seeing this all throughout Colorado. You just Google recidivism. Multi-time offenders on parole issues. It's horrible what we're seeing. But it doesn't show numbers. So when I go to Denver and I fight legislation about something going on, and I'm saying, they're asking, well, what's your numbers? Well, your numbers are false. How do I argue with that? Right? Other than we're seeing it, multiple offenders on multiple days, multiple things, and there's not squat we can do about it because it's being brushed over by the state. Look at my soapbox on recidivism numbers and why we're starting to see crime moving. Why are we getting it? Well, a lot of it is because we're kind of a destination location now. Everybody wants to come here to our forests. They want to use that, which is great. We get a lot of good people. We get some bad people also. Our homelessness is up in the county. I never thought in all my years being in this county, I would see homelessness. We're too cold, we got too much snow. Oh, it doesn't seem to matter, right? So we deal with that on a pretty daily basis anymore. Anywhere from shelf, of course, Service Road 367 to our range, just all over the county. One of my big concerns in that, fire, right? It's dealing with the fires. That's my biggest concern with that. But also, we've had some people that have shot people, done things in the forest because they're homeless, and they're escaping from something. That's happening. It's not the same forest that I used to send my kids into that hunt, fished, and camped, and could do that from the time they were 13 all the way up till now, right? It just has changed. It's unfortunate. We send deputies almost every day into those woods to make sure some of that doesn't happen. So there's a lot going on in your community. I will tell you though, firsthand, that our numbers are less than most counties. Reasons for that. I can explain. I don't care what people think. If somebody breaks the law, they're going to go to our jail. Regardless, it just is what it is. You trespass on somebody's property, you break and enter on somebody's property, doesn't matter. You're going to spend time in jail, one way or the other. Secondarily, and this will get me all kinds of issues over the next month, I'm sure of it. But we are dealing with criminal aliens. It is one of our biggest problems right now. We're facing throughout Colorado. I led a coalition last month to try to get a bill changed about why that is. And unfortunately, people don't want to hear about it. I'll kind of explain that here. I get a lot of titles anymore, especially from people who don't care for it to begin with. But Here's the problem that we're seeing. Right now in the state of Colorado, if I deal with an undocumented alien, we really don't care if they're undocumented, they don't do anything wrong. They're just an illegal alien. They go on about their business. They're not staying in Teller County. For the most part, they're doing their thing. Not a problem. Criminal aliens are a whole different world. And we're dealing with that a lot. Not as much as we were, and there's a reason for that. But here's the problem that we see. If you're a criminal alien and you come to this country, and you're undocumented, you commit a crime, you're gonna go to our jail. Our 287G deputies, which are actually an ICE agent, and as soon as we find that somebody's undocumented, they turn their new hat around and they're a federal agent, they will document you and you will go to jail with ICE. Why is that important? Because we're the only county in the state of Colorado doing that. Right? Because what happened was, there's two bills that were passed. The first bill basically says that a law enforcement organization or a law enforcement officer in the state of Colorado, county entity, municipality, state entity, cannot identify anyone to ICE that's an illegal alien. So I'm hearing on the news, everybody going, well, we're not sanctuary cities. We're not sanctuary counties. We're not sanctuary state. Kind of baloney. If you look under what that statute means, what it says, or even the dictionary identification of what a sanctuary city is, it says when a law enforcement organization or jail cannot work with ICE. That's really in a nutshell what that means, right? This state is a sanctuary state. That's why Denver is seeing the numbers they're seeing. That is why we're seeing criminal aliens here flock here in numbers. I was told the last legislative session when I brought this up that I was wrong and I was a liar. Because there's no such things as cartels. No such thing as there's no such thing as illegal, and there's no such thing as violent crimes, right? I don't know what world people live in today. But when 22 sheriffs from all over the state, El Paso County, Pueblo County, Douglas County, Teller County, Park County, Bennett County, and a whole multitude of others that are partners with us are standing up saying, you have a problem. We have to identify these types of cartels. There's only one way to fight them. Because the problem is they're so spread out throughout the states and the countries. If we don't identify who we're dealing with, we can't track what they're doing in other states, which basically gives free run to cartels to do whatever they want in your communities. And there's not a community in this state that's not dealing with it. I just talked to a legislator out of Phillips County. He's got 4 counties on the other side of the state. They had to bring the ATF and DEA in to deal with the cartels within their county. They aren't big enough. They don't have enough people. So it's not just here. It's not just there. It's everywhere. It's across the United States now. It's proliferating all communities. Why? Here's the problem that Colorado faces. When we allow black market marijuana to come in, and we as a state were trying to hide the fact that there's illegal marijuana also. You can sell legal marijuana. You can have legal marijuana. The problem is that the black market marijuana became so strong in the state, it created logistics lines for the cartels that just drive it through our state. We're 12 hours from the Mexico border, Laredo. We're right up I-70. We're on I-25, Highway 67, Highway 80. We spread to every other state in the union, right? It's what it is. So why wouldn't we want to be in the middle of the United States growing marijuana, creating sexual trafficking, running fentanyl, running methamphetamine? That's why we were on the cusp of all these things standing up. That's why you're seeing Pueblo and so many problems. Watch the news on Pueblo some night. Right? And the big thing is, I don't want to see communities in Colorado continue this. I grew up here. I'm from here. I'm from with you, right? I've sat on both sides of the seat. And I will tell you, we're not going to allow it to happen here. And I and all those other sheriffs are standing up against that now. And even a lot of our Democratic sheriffs are fighting with us. Because this is not a Republican Democratic issue. This is an American issue. This is our community issue. And we have to fight it together. That's why when we started the coalition, it didn't matter who you were, it didn't matter what side of the aisle you sat. We as law enforcement said, you have a problem. And this is the only way we're going to fix it. So unfortunately, they're not going to allow us to fix it that way. So we'll probably do some of our own things here in the next few months. So I can't tell you what that is because I'll get it back in court next month. So, But all those things matter, right? Sometimes it's just the stance to tell people, don't come up here. Don't do that up here because you will have consequences. And I want that to ring true, and I want the media to take that, and I want it to be out there, even if it's me, I don't want to testify about it. That's what we're doing, right? I think that's the piece is that we as citizens in the United States and then in Colorado have to vote, have to take back what we have. And you have to find good legislatures, both sides of the aisle. Doesn't matter to me, they have to be logical. And that's kind of my mission anymore is to let you know there's good people on the Democratic side too, and the Republican side. I've been dealing with all kinds of Democratic legislatures that really, they have the same feelings as we do. It's, for whatever reason, it's that very, very left-leaning liberals that are creating a lot of the issues. But we also have on the right, a lot of right-wing rights, right? So it's not just one side, it's, we've got to get centered and do what we need to do to take back our country for the right reasons. So that's what I have for Teller County. That's my spiel for this evening. And then I'm going to start taking questions. So who would like to have a first question?
We do have a question online, sir.
Let me ask this one.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How can we support you in that effort outside of voting? But you go showing up somewhere to support you in court or rights to us?
Everything, right? If you have a voice, use it. When you vote, vote. Know your issues and please vote. You know, we had this issue in the country where everybody thought, and maybe for good reasons, maybe not for other reasons, that the voting was stolen, right? But what happened is people from both sides of the aisle bailed off of voting anymore. So then it left this huge rift where people didn't vote. And then what happened was, I'll be honest, you go to Denver, I'm dealing with a 23-year-old kid who knows nothing about nothing. They got voted in office because nobody wants that position. So we have to stand up. We have to decide that we want to run for offices. We have to get involved with our community. We have to fight for those things. Testifying from a legislator, not fun nowadays, right? I was up there last week and there's a legislator by the name of Epps. I have never seen anybody that just reveled in the fact she could call people names at the end of the hearings that she had the last say, or to tell people, well, I think several times I've been a liar, a racist. What was the last one? Old, white, alcoholic. I bought safe injection sites. I don't believe them. I think it's going to compound make more issues for all of us. So all those issues, or even making fun of a reverend while he was trying to speak. I'm amazed sometimes. But that's the people I'm dealing with right now, right? Not all, even their own party. It is what it is. It's just difficult, right? So, and I normally don't need to give anybody a platform by mentioning their names, but I was one that really kind of got to me. Unbelievable, right? So, but that's where we're at. That's what I need. I need people to get on there, get on the Zooms, fight legislation, get involved with legislation, understand. Because I'll be honest, we don't even know when they're coming out sometimes, so you really have to watch. Yes, sir.
Do you get any help with state patrol? Or they should have to give us?
So this county has 8 state patrolmen that are allowed here because of gaming. They're a huge help to us. And they're the ones you're gonna see on the highway writing tickets. They do a good job of it. They write a lot of tickets.
Like one, two.
Yes. A lot of them. So yes, they are a huge help to us. And honestly, they're in our office. We have great working relationship with them. Also with our Division of Wildlife, state parks, you name it. This county, we get along with everybody. I got offices in here for our Division of Wildlife guys. They're just wonderful.
The two rescue?
Search and rescue's under us also. That's right.
So, the trailhead crime and break-ins at the women's trailhead and the safety in general. That was especially West Oak. If you have more information.
On specific break-ins, I don't have any information. I'll be quite honestly with you. I get hot sheets on that stuff, but if it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, we've moved on. I have from seeing it. I don't have generalized information on Women's Federation floors on those.
Okay.
But what we will do is we'll find some information and see if we can get it over to our local newspaper, so we can put it out for you.
Okay. And then the second question is, how many mills and property tax do we need the support to give the TCSO the manpower and equipment it needs?
That's actually something we're working on to understand what that is. Mills is usually a property tax piece that identifies per 100,000 how many mills they would have to meet what our budget would have to be to produce that many people. It's a math problem, and I'm going to tell you where I don't know how to do math tonight. So, but we are looking at what does that mean for the county and where does that sit. I think the last projected numbers I looked at, it was about $2.7 million to bring us up to 24 personnel. It costs me right now $100,000 to outfit a deputy. Between compensation packets, all those types of things when somebody comes in, equipment, cars, because they gotta have a car to drive, radio systems. Law enforcement's gotten so expensive. It's just crazy nowadays. A radio and when I was young was like $150 for a law enforcement officer. That same radio today is $2,600 a piece because the state just go to, it's called $37 now this year. Last year was 28. I don't know how it bounces so much. But a lot of it is because the radio systems run on 800 megahertz system. Many of you understand radios. That's what we were told we had to go to. We can no longer use the last system, which was much cheaper. These systems are much more expensive and harder to deal with. So the only good thing is that the infrastructure of that system, I no longer have to buy it. The old system, we had to keep up the infrastructure and it was horrible. We tried to push everybody to the 800 megahertz system this year because it's actually state. The state comes in and they fix the towers, make sure they're doing well. But the radios are expensive. One of the reasons we're trying to get everybody over to it, the old system that I had, it wasn't as good as 2 cans tied to the string. I'm telling you, it didn't matter where I was in the county, you weren't gonna hear us. The problem was, it's a lonely road at night when you're struggling with somebody on the side of the road and you can't get any help, because I've been there multiple times, right? It's not good. So the new radios, if you fall down, these things will alert us. If you go horizontal, it's gonna alert us. You hit the button, it alerts us. And then plus, on the same time, I had to put body cameras on people. Those body cameras cost us $500,000 to outfit because the state of Colorado, it is illegal for us not to have a body camera when we're dealing with crime or something. So the problem I have is that body camera that sits on the sergeant there, it's not a cheap piece of equipment. And then the other side, I have to do all the storage. And if I corrupt that storage at all, I get charged with a crime. Yeah, something happens to me, you get charged with a crime. Doesn't get turned on properly, you get charged with a crime. So we bought the best things we could so we wouldn't have those issues, right? If something goes wrong with them, guess who catches the arrow on that one too? So law enforcement's expensive. It's just expensive. It's not. I could outfit, if I didn't have these body cameras, another 5 deputies on the road tomorrow. I wish I could do it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So it seems like it's been since COVID, this explosion of ATVs riding illegally in residential neighborhoods is just out of control. And in my personal neighborhood, I have ATVs almost creating my twin neighbors, little kids. And then they came up the hill right in front of my driveway, and I have a pretty short drive. My grandkids were playing in the driveway. When they came up, they landed on their back rear tire. When the front tire came down, they were just within inches of hitting the windshield. They are now, when I've asked my neighbors to stay off my road, I think the genie's out of the bottle with this ATV issue because it is against state law. It's also against our own covenants and bylaws, but they feel very entitled. And it's not good enough anymore just to ride from their house to the trails. It's now ripping it up in the neighborhood. And my husband was coming home one evening and there were 5 guys on dirt bikes, and one of the bikes was actually someone disabled, so it was super slow. So he was trying to come around and on a road that was supposed to be County Road 330. And every time he tried to get around, one of them would be nailed. Finally, he got around. And when he did get home, just a few minutes later, those guys showed up on the bikes ready to fight. So now my fear is retaliation.
Yeah.
I'm just asking people to stay off just my road, but really they should stay on all those roads. And so what can we do to get a handle, because someone's gonna get hurt.
Well, man, we've had people hurt. We've had a lot of people hurt in the county, and here's part of the problem we're running into, right? I'll send deputies out for a call that we have a ATV or a motorcycle on a roadway inside of a subdivision. By the time we're there, they're gone, right? Here's the other problem. If you know who they are, let us know who they are. So we can go right to their house. Here's a bigger problem I'm running into. We have so many people in the US Forest Service. They're coming here from out of state. They're coming here from Colorado Springs, Denver. Because a lot of these ATV companies, guess where they tell them to go when you buy something? They're telling them to come up here. US Forest Service has 3 guys that are up here trying to do stuff. But normally they're only right under what's called CFR, right? So it's the Forest Service piece of that. The Forest Service pays us $10,000 a year to go out and drive around the area. I probably spend $300,000 a year being in those forests, telling people to go get their permits for their UTVs or stop them on them. We actually do a lot of contacts with those. A lot of the other issues too is writing them tickets so they don't even show back up to court up here. There's no, and even if I do send them to court, they're being kicked out with a simple fine. You know, it's an epidemic. It's an issue. We see it also. I don't know what to do with it right now. Until we can get people to start respecting the laws. It's a nightmare. I've had, well, I can't even say that. So it's a lot. So let us work on it with you. But if you know who they are and you know who's writing those fines, let us know. When you call it in, that helps us out immensely. Then we just go right to the house. Because we've had how many probably pursuits on motorcycles this year? I mean, just, they don't stop either.
I think just even if we could have patrol occasionally up at 33 and 330, you know, just because there's that great outdoors now that has their, and I do believe they tell their customers do not go down to that subdivision.
Well, I'll be honest, people, I could send somebody out to every intersection in the county right now, and I have the same complaints of every single subdivision. It just has gotten that way, but that's the other side of telling you. I want to be in every single one of them, but having 3 deputies traveling, it's almost impossible. Now, I will tell you this, we did over 3,000 traffic stops last year, inside subdivisions on county roads. For 2 or 3 deputies that are on duty, that's pretty good. That's a lot of traffic
And
stops.
thank you for what you're doing.
Well, we'll definitely, and what I'll do too is, Renee, can you make a note, let's get with those rental places for ATVs and the rest of the county meeting springs and let them know that, hey, here's our posted non-compliance issues.
You know, another thing, you're talking about your husband at home when these bikers come up. Man, did you call us on that?
No, we didn't call on that, but there are witnesses who are with law enforcement who saw.
So there's another thing. When something like this happens, you guys need to call us. Second of all, you're talking about covenants. Covenants are civil, so
Right.
there's nothing that we can do with covenants. And then if you know who the people are, if they're your neighbors and you can identify them, then sign a complaint. Because again, by the time we get out there, I mean, it could be an hour or so,
Sure.
and we get out there and they're, like I said, they're already parked and
My
everything. But if
concern
you know
is-
who they are personally, you can sign a complaint and we'll serve it on them. Again, of course, it's putting you that you want to have to go to court.
Well, my fear is retaliation is because they did come up and they were wanting to
Yeah.
fight, and I've been tailgated. And again, because my belief is that the genie's out of the bottle, and it's never going to be able to be really stopped because these people have no respect. If they're there to recreate and they don't care, even though they live there, their neighbors, you know.
Yeah.
But my fear is retaliation. I don't want to be that person calling all the time. You know, and I did call now and I did file a report file when they almost hit my grandchildren and when they almost hit the twins. Because I felt like that needed to be a record, but I'm not gonna call you guys.
Well, and just know, here's the other thing too. If you call us in this county, from the time we receive the call, we go through all the boxes and everything, it's usually about 3 to 6 minutes before we send it out. Sure. Right? Once we send it out in this county, because of the mileage where we're at, we're usually about 38 minutes to 54 minutes before we actually get there. Right? Unless it's a high priority call where we're running code. So, you know, it is hard, right? Because by the time we get somewhere, it makes it, unless I have a deputy in the area. If I have a deputy in the area, it makes a huge difference. So, yes, sir?
I have a question. Do we have a fund where the fund can buy this motor vehicle, like an ATV fund, a built like fund? Maybe do the, rally fund, but we don't want the Lindsay Club.
We don't have anything.
That is something we really help us to calm down all illegal vehicles, illegal activity that all teenagers want to have, including me. Give you a fun way to have like a food bank.
Well, it would be nice. My hope is maybe we have that someday. That's right.
So, can you explain why, individuals can no longer hear TCSO on the scanner radios?
So under the new radios, the 800 megahertz systems, you won't be able to hear it on normal scanners. So that is part of it. You just won't hear it. There's a lot of reasons for that too. I'll be quite honest. I think a lot of people track us on those radios. So they know that I have a deputy in District 1, which is by Cripple Creek in Victor. They know I don't have anybody in Florissant, right? So we don't want to always air where we're at anymore. It makes it really difficult for us. Yes, ma'am.
Can we do what Aurora and Lakewood did to send the message to Denver that we are not going to accept any illegal immigrants?
Ma'am, I think we've done that. I think I do. I think I'm on every one. But that's not joking aside, we're well known throughout the state that we don't do those things. Yes, sir.
Do you have support of the commissioners on the illegal immigration issues?
I do. Yeah.
Good. I mean, our governor in Denver and the United States government is actually creating treason right now. It's in the Constitution. Borders will be secured. And that guy that's in the zoo in Washington, he lied. You have more power than the governor because you're the sheriff. It says you are elected to uphold the state constitution and the United States Code Constitution of securing the border of illegals. And I know that they might be innocent coming in, but you really know if these illegals are innocent or not because they're undocumented.
You're absolutely right, but here's the problem, right? We talk about constitutionalities of laws all the time. Is the law that says that I, as a law enforcement officer, can't work with ICE unconstitutional? It is. It's laws. Well, it's in our state law, right? I can't work with them. I should be able to work with them.
Yeah.
We should all be able to work with a federal jurisdiction on a matter, right? The state of Colorado has passed a law that says I can. But here's the problem.
It goes against the Constitution.
Here's the problem though. If we say it's unconstitutional, who decides on that? It has to be a court, which means somebody has to say this is a constitutional issue. That's the problem with, yes, I agree with you. The law may be unconstitutional. The problem is the minute I step over the line and say, I'm not doing that law, I'm not gonna do this, then I'm now doing something illegal against the state
How
constitution.
can a citizen then file against the government of this treasonous act? Because they're breaking the US that trumps everything.
Well, here's what happens.
Really.
You
As a
notify,
citizen, I should be able to take them off.
well, you can in a way, right? You notify your commissioners and myself that, hey, there's an issue with this law. The commissioners then, once I request it, will vote on whether we want to take this to court. And then we take it to court for you, right? These cases are multi-year. I've been now in one for 6 years, right? They're very expensive. The only reason it's not been as expensive for this county is because I have a really smart attorney, right? Because usually it's 2, 3, 4 attorneys. It's not simple. And we're not done yet. This fight for that is not over. So, you know, all those things, you have to work through your local governments. That's why you got to get more involved. We have to vote. We have to make sure that we're going up to legislation or arguing legislative points. You have to do those things. That's where a citizen has the rights. And that's what I tell you. It's better to be peaceful, quiet, and then carry the big stick of going up there and fighting for your rights, right? That's what we have. Yes, ma'am.
What's astounding is that, the legislatures that even, all the lawyers and all that in law school, they don't study the Constitution. They don't even know the Constitution. they study cases. So they don't know. So we absolutely almost have to educate them on what the Constitution says.
I'm gonna try to find a question. So here's what I can tell you, right? I think, here's the thing, even in legislatures, they're all doing what they believe is right, right? The problem is when we decide not to listen to those that are dealing with it and make steps towards something that you're just out there doing your own thing. It's now a personal agenda, and it's not a what's right for Colorado agenda. And I think that's the fear is, we're getting too far out there when what's the Colorado agenda need to be? What do we as citizens want it to be? So attorneys, there's good attorneys, and then there's attorneys that are dealing with things for people that are trying to push issues. So I can't say they're all bad. So that don't deal with the Constitution, because they actually get that. The issue is that, what are you trying to get to? What are you trying to accomplish, right? Right now, my whole goal, and really it needs to be Teller County as a goal, is that I protect our citizens. That's my job. I leave it to the courts to figure out things. I just have to take a gut feeling and really move forward on what I believe and say, this is what is right. And that's why we do things. And sometimes that helps me, and sometimes it backwards. Yes, sir.
I've got a question regarding the courts up here. I know Colorado Springs, from personal experience, they let some of the scumbags out. Absolutely no punishment. Are our judges up here actually punishing people that are doing serious crimes, or are they kind of like the Springs where, oh, here's a slap on the wrist, have a good day?
It's pretty much the whole state of Colorado slap on the wrist, and here's why. It's not the judges. I've actually got great judges.
That's what I want.
The problem is it's the new bail reform issues, right? The problem is it's not even courts so much as what now they're setting for these things. Are people getting out that shouldn't be out? My belief is that, yeah, they should not be getting out. We need to hold on to some of these people. Why do I say that? I've had several domestic violence issues in the last few years. Somebody got bailed out and left, and they murdered that woman within hours, right? Horrible to have to deal with that, to go to family and tell them that that's what just happened. And that you couldn't do anything, even though there was multiple restraining orders. That's hard. That's the problem. It's because it's been legislated that way. The new bond issues that have been put out there are ridiculous. Right? I believe everybody should have a day in court. Should be able to get out on bond if the judge sees fit, but a judge can't always stop it anymore. And I can name you 10, 15 times last year that I just shook my head, so did the judge.
Their hands are tied.
All of our hands are tied right. Prosecutors also, right? It's just crazy nowadays. It's unfortunate. But I will say this, it's gonna swing back. Why? I've got a room packed with people tonight that 2 years ago may not have come. Because things were all right, they're much better. We as Coloradoans are starting to see a need to change things. We need to get back to more of a law and order type country. We've got to, there's no other choice. And I will tell you, there will be more crimes this year. It will be uglier. It's going to be a nasty summer. I already see it coming. All the sheriffs are talking about it. All your police chiefs are talking about it. We know what's coming. It's a wave of issues. But I'll be told I'm crazy by tomorrow. Right? But every year I go back and look at what we did in the podcast. I did a podcast a year ago after I got out of legislation, and I told Denver and all those legislators, you have now created a sign that says, come here, we are a sanctuary state. And a year later, you now have Denver trying to send people to other districts around them. So you got them sending them to other places, and now they're going. And what really irritated me was this year, they had a $50 million need to help illegal immigrants in Denver, right? So they cut your local grants in this area to help with mental health issues, with all these other issues that are in our county. We think that our DOLA funding is going to be cut. That's what funds several of my deputies so that we can keep them hired in this county because we deal with casinos. Well, we believe that's probably going to be gone because the state is looking for anything they can possibly do to grab money to assist in these things because you have the bigger areas out of Denver. And why is that? My buddy Dan Williams, he's a great commissioner. He makes a great talk about there's 6 million people in the state of Colorado right now. 5 million of them live on that front range. 800,000 live in rural Colorado. Well, there's your answer, right? We have to change and educate people is what's happening, or they'll be educated. It's a matter of time. But we're running out of resources. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Does Denver have the legal authority to force other jurisdictions to accept immigrants?
It's not Denver so much, it's your legislatures in Denver, yes. Because here's why. Right now, they'll drop a bill to go before, a panel, right? Whatever panel that is. It gets pushed through on the party line votes like water. It doesn't even slow it down. It goes right into, the House. The House is gonna vote for it. Because there's no balance at all. And then it goes right to the Senate to go to another committee. Committee approves it, goes to Senate floor. Now, I will tell you, the Senate has done a good job of kind of trying to figure out logic on some of these things on both sides of the aisle. They really have. The governor has done some good things by saying, hey, we're not doing this. This is not good. So there's some logical people in office right now. Then there's also that aren't, right? So it's a crapshoot for what we're dealing with. But yes, do they have the authority to do that? Once they put it in law, yes.
So then it doesn't matter if a city like Colorado Springs declares that they're not a sanctuary overlapping. They're gonna have to take them anyway?
Well, they're not taking them. Here's what sanctuary city is. Sanctuary city is when a jail or a law enforcement entity will not assist the federal government with removing. That's what a sanctuary means. The piece where we're paying for people from other countries and we're sending them out and paying for where they're staying and all that. That has nothing to do with sanctuary. That's just crazy. Yeah. Especially when you're spending millions and hundreds of millions of dollars for all these types of things. It doesn't make sense. So, I mean, yeah, Colorado Springs can say we're not taking them. The problem is, and nobody wants to hear it, they are a sanctuary city because the state of Colorado has already created laws that says Colorado is a sanctuary city. Look up Wikipedia, sanctuary city. Guess who pops up first? Colorado. So, yes, sir.
Legislation. You're the most powerful law enforcement in the nation. Do you think in the legislation that they are trying to usurp your authority and possibly put agencies to look over your shoulder and say, we believe that this case needs to be inspected by our.
It's happening now. Here's the thing. The sheriff is the most really powerful office, I guess, because you're the closest to your constituents. Here's the thing. I'll try to say this as correct as possible, but still be as sarcastic as I can be. Okay? In the state of Colorado right now, basically, as the head law enforcement officer in the county, I can go anywhere in the county and look at a case. Doesn't matter if it's the same for a home rule county or a home rule city or a statutory city. If it's a crime, I still have jurisdiction to some degree. The state is pushing a bill this year, and I think it may change a little bit now. I think all sheriffs in Colorado, 64 counties came out against it really hard. All police departments now changed. They were supportive of it. Now they're getting away from it. The district attorney's office came out against it. But what it basically says, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation can actually come in, take a case from the sheriff's office, not even tell us they're here, and start investigating. Here's the bad part of it. Well, it's all bad. I don't know what part is good, but it's all bad. But here's the really disturbing part. Say you're in a lawful shooting in your own home. Somebody's not happy with the fact that you shot somebody in your own home or in self-defense in a Walmart parking lot. Okay? I would take that case, look at it and go, all right, we see that he did this or she did this within the boundaries of the law. It was in self-defense. It was a lawful shoot that we saw. We give it to the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office for Mike Allen, who's a great district attorney, who's a good friend of mine, and I trust him wholeheartedly on so many things. He would look at it and go, Sheriff, what do you think? Here's what I think. All right, well, let's look at it. His attorneys go through and they go, you know what? This is a self-defense case. They had every right to protect other people. But now I have a bureaucrat in Denver that goes to the attorney general and says, hey, I want this investigated. So now Colorado Bureau of Investigation can come and open up that case, start criminally investigating, and there's not squat any of us can do about it. Scary. Scary thing, because now in the state of Colorado, under our constitution, you're not supposed to have a state police agency. What they have just done is create a state police agency with more power than a district attorney and or a sheriff.
Yeah.
So we've been fighting this now for 3 weeks, I guess, which doesn't sound like a long time, but in legislative time, every 15 minutes is time. So, I think they're doing some amendments to kind of get close to where we were, but still work with CBI. Colorado Bureau of Investigation. I hope we can get there. But it's pretty hard when you have no leverage in this state right now. Because they'll tell you, and there's several of them in Denver that'll tell you, we're going to do it because we can and we will. Right? Yes, ma'am.
You being the Lone Ranger, ICE, only sheriff that will hold them. Your coalition of sheriffs, are there any other counties that are starting to join with you and
Yeah, so
help
here's the
with
good
these
thing.
criminal?
There are a lot of sheriffs now standing up in their own counties, both Democrat and Republican, with their commissioners, with their city managers. Because this has been brought to a forefront, right? You are going to see a different outlook in the state of Colorado. 6 years ago when I started this file, it was just us. And everybody's watching us to see what would happen. Now, we're finishing up the appeal here in the next few weeks. I believe we're gonna have a very good resolution on that. I think you are going to see more sheriffs across the state of Colorado jumping on board the 287G program. Why? It's the only thing that works. Working here, we've been the only candle in the state, and really Teller County's been on the forefront of all these fights. And now I've got a great partner in El Paso County. I finally got a really good sheriff down there that will stand up for himself. That's been great. So I'm happy to have a partner in him, Darren Wheatley out of Douglas County, which is right here next to us. He's standing up for it too. I'm so proud of the sheriffs that jumped on that coalition. And they went against a lot of different groups.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, in this momentum, are we gonna be a sanctuary county for the Second Amendment? Are we that now, or is that any?
I believe the commissioners have already said that we are, you have to be very careful when you say sanctuary right now.
I know, because.
So I think their terminology is more political than that, but that's what they're saying. Here's the problem. If CBI can do what they're doing, there's not a dang thing I can do. Right? If a judge signs an active warrant to come look at your house, search warrant, there's nothing we can do. I'll have deputies arrested for trying to stop somebody from doing it. You just can't do that. So it's in your hands as citizens to scream and yell and argue in Denver and really get up there and fight for these things. Join your NRAs, join your different organizations. You gotta get involved with them. It's the only way it's gonna work. You gotta have lobbying firms. If you don't have lobbyists, you don't have the ability to sue. That's how it goes. Now, I don't think, and this is just me, right? I don't think the state would attempt that. I also think that assault weapon ban is not gonna go. I think there's gonna be a huge push against it, because really it identifies every hunting rifle made, right? Every pistol that's ever been developed. It's taking your rights away from you, or personal property away from you, and it says you can't give it to someone else. You can't do that. That's something we cannot do.
It's sad when they twist the wording around about an AR. An AR is not an assault rifle. That's not the name.
Well, let
of
me
it.
tell you about twisting words around.
I know.
There's nothing I can say that's not twisted by next week.
This isn't really a question to you, but it's a statement about that. Next, on the 13th, they're having a meeting with, I think, Rock Mountain gun owners at the library in Woodland Park to try to get a bunch of people, kind of help people organize against some of the stuff they're doing up there.
And the biggest thing is you gotta go to Denver, you gotta sit in those things. What I found out last year was that, we had, professional people that would go up there to argue a bill, and they would bring in 2 people in to talk about the bill. They knew nothing about the bill, but that, I'll be honest, I don't think they gave, the most truthful discussion about what they were talking about. And then I was told we were wrong, right? Just is. On the safe injection sites, the lady asked me, one of the legislators asked me this last week, well, New York City's not tracking any more crime in the areas where this occurs, and not seeing any more overdoses in this. Why do you think you in Colorado as law enforcement, wouldn't this be a great thing for you? And my only answer, ma'am, I'm here representing Colorado Sheriffs of Colorado. The gentleman here also is with the police chiefs of the state of Colorado. We represent 14,000 police officers that are telling you this is not a good idea. And they passed it. Because a couple of people get up there and tell them, oh, it's great. Right?
In California.
And doctors. So that's what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. It's not they don't believe law enforcement, right? You know, for whatever reason, it just is what it is. Do I think and care what they think? No. Right? At that point of the game, there's no more playing with it, right? It's just, it is what it is. It's just a dogma.
So you have one more question?
Okay,
So, are there homeless camps in Teller County, and if so, how are we handling that issue?
there are. We deal with them quite often. We deal with the RVs that show up. Here's a problem with an RV, if it's parked at US Forest Service, BLM, on the side of the road, no tow company wants to pick it up. Because they're stuck with it, and they're having to pay for this thing. They can't even get rid of it, it's junk. So we're having a hard time dealing with the trash. We've worked with Focus on the Forest, great partners of ours. So we can go down and deal with the homeless camp. We can issue summonses, tickets, if somebody is illegally camping, because we have a county ordinance on that. But if they pick up, move somewhere else, well, they can camp there, state law. So, for another however many days, okay? So there are certain things we're doing. We have dealt with a lot of these camps. We've actually even worked out the camp. Whoever's in charge of the camps was always in charge, right? Homeless camp. They got their own city council. But it's good to the point that we've actually had them clean up their own camps by dropping off dumpsters and moving before we did anything. We've tried the education. You name it, we've come at it from a certain direction. Everybody's dealing with this, right? And then the other side, we've had to do some removals. This is just junk, it's trash, it's horrible. But it's difficult. There is no easy way to deal with homes. And I've got Shelf Road, 357, Rampart Main Road, Roll Camp Road, you name it, we're dealing with. Yeah.
We've had them on both high chef already.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is we keep staying warmer. Now this year's been a good year. Yeah, people don't want to stay up here. Yeah. Questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, there's been chatter on social media here about revolution or civil war over the coming election. So questions that I have for you are, have you heard this chatter? Are you concerned about it? Think it's really a risk? And what are you doing to prevent or respond to efforts to, bring about this civil war or revolution?
So, and what organization are you with? Yeah.
I'm just a resident.
Okay.
No organization.
So I will tell you this, we do not have any chatter of any type of a revolution. Right? Have not. So the sheriff's office responds to a lot of things. We did have the June 6th issue, right? 2 of those folks. But as people from Washington DC had contacted me and wanted to know, well, what's your level of militia groups, or the issue was they weren't, right? They called themselves the Mad Dogs or whatever it was. We never heard of them. There was 2 people in it. I think that was done over a beer somewhere. It was DC. That's what the FBI. So they prosecuted those folks. Don't know any more than that, but you can contact the FBI. They may have some stats, but I'll be quite honest with you. That's one of those questions that tends to want to stir people up and start talking about these types of things. And here's the thing about Teller County. Teller County is made up of so many wonderful people that deal with, that they're ex-engineers or ex-lawyers or ex-law enforcement or ex-military or ex-XXX, right? This is a county of adults and great people. So questions like that, in the past, I used to say that I don't have dumb questions. Well, that's the first time I got it. Okay. So I will tell you, this county does not have an issue with that. There isn't chatter, and I have great citizens. Any other questions?
We also have great law. We have our great people.
Questions out here? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
So I moved out here mostly to be near my aunt who was aging, as a single white female. I did pick up a cowboy one, but I want, when you came out on Facebook in January, that was huge to me. When you said you're gonna stand up and represent all of your citizens, it means the world to me. And I just want to thank you. It's
Thank
huge. I know you're taking a lot of heat and it's huge to me. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
protecting us.
Well, I'll tell you something. Like I said, I grew up here. My kids grew up here. My grandkids are gonna hopefully grow up here. My friends are here, family's here. You know, we have always stuck together. You've been together since through COVID, for all the craziness. We've been together throughout how many fires. The only reason the sheriff's office exists at the level it does today is because of you. You get my great officers. That has nothing to do with me, right? Leadership, I found a long time ago, starts at home and never starts in the building. And I have so many great leaders that they do some of the best work that possibly can be done, right? And the thing about this county is that if I call tomorrow and say, hey, I need you to evacuate, guess what happens? You guys are out the door before I can even get there. But then you're back trying to help us the next day, right? You don't get that everywhere. We get that here. It's because we are strong. You know what to do. You're good folks. And I'm just not gonna let that crazy stuff lead into this now. I'm just not. We'll continue to be transparent, let you know what we're doing. We're gonna continue. I gotta go back up next week. I think we're gonna be up there at the legislature, I don't know, most of next week or on Zoom's fighting things, but I gotta be there. You know, I'm not going to, I don't care what kind of crazy law comes out. If it's not morally and ethically right, we're not going to do it. And that's probably gonna be an issue for some in different places, but there's coming a point where there's so many new laws. I don't know how we even do these things. Half the time we get these new legislations, we don't even know they exist until they hit us. And then we're trying to figure out, going, hey, who's paying for this? How's it gonna be done? This is crazy time. I get a lot of that, right? But you're my most concern. So this will continue to be what it is. I'll probably end on this note since I don't have too many more questions. Yes, sir.
Where can we go to find out who our representatives are, not only in Turner County, but those north? And a contact with, so to speak.
Good questions. And here's what I'm gonna start doing. So we are now posting on our Facebook page the bills that we're fighting, right? Kind of let everybody know. On that, we're also gonna start posting who the representatives are in that. Okay? Good. So I want you to call off.
Yeah.
They need to hear your voice. That is the American way. You can go to leg.colorado.gov. That'll tell you the bills that are coming. What it doesn't do a really good job of, I'll be honest, I'll be testifying and they changed the bill with an amendment already. I don't even know about it. But it does do a good job of telling you what the main bills are. You need to do it. I got a feeling Trevor's probably gonna do some work on that too, here at local jackpot. But we're gonna try to get that out, because I really want you to know. Because I'll be honest, most people in Colorado don't even know what these bills are. Half the people out there don't even see them until, hey, it's a gun bill, right? But there's a lot of other bills that are doing other things that are 10 times worse. I know our commissioners were dealing with one a few months ago where they wanted to increase the occupancy of houses to like 28 people in a single family residence. Well, the problem was, what happens to your septic tanks? Nobody thought about that. So those kind of issues is probably what we're looking at. All right? Yeah, George.
Where are we at with implied immunity? Is there any movement on that, or are we still stuck?
Implied immunity. This is where it has to do with law enforcement officers that have something happen. So in Colorado, they changed laws, but they kind of tweaked it. And I'll be honest, they didn't change a whole lot. It really scared most law enforcement officers, right? We saw mass retirements, people jumping out. But here's where it did change. So in law enforcement, if someone does something that they had qualified immunity before, the county has to say, I'm not going to give you qualified immunity anymore, or the city. The nice thing about a sheriff's office is I'm the one that decides who gets qualified immunity and who doesn't, right? It's always been, if a law enforcement officer commits a felony act or a criminal act, that they weren't covered. So they never had qualified immunity under that. Because you're treated like every other citizen. And we've had multiple issues of that in this county, and we've had to deal with it. We're upfront, honest, and dealt with it. But if I have a law enforcement officer that does something that someone says that they're going to sue on a civil grounds and try to take away their lawful immunity, they can't, because I won't let that happen. Right? I have that bill. So, yes, and this county will cover them for that other $25,000. Right? Now, here's where it's a kicker for a lot of agencies. I work in a municipality, and they created this group that's going to look over the cases and judge on that. Well, they could take your qualified immunity. That's why you're not seeing as many police officers as you starting to see sheriffs. So in law enforcement, in the bigger agencies, you're starting to see these organizations that grow up that are the ones judging how a law enforcement officer acts. And they're taken from all manners of groups. Here's the thing. I truly think you want good law in a state, you want a safe place to be, you gotta love your law enforcement officers. Here's what's not being done in the state. There's people telling law enforcement officers in the Capitol that you're liars, you're thieves, you are horrible moral people, right? And they're not. They're wonderful men and women. They do great things for the state, and I don't care what anybody says, we're still gonna love them through. And I think that needs to be outlook of Colorado. And until we get back to that as a state and identify that these cops, well, you're gonna start seeing a lot more crimes. Because in the city, why would I go out and do something to stop something if I'm going to be sued tomorrow? And I have cops call me from all over the state. I've had baby cops here in this county that have gone other places and they're doing great work. They'll call me saying, hey, I'm in a jackpot because now there's an IA and they're looking at my qualified immunity and all I'm doing is exactly what I was told and trained to do. Well, they're right. They were. And there's really not an organization in the state that will stand up to that yet. But it's coming, right? Because I think we have to start standing up for them. The communities. My community's great. I don't have to worry too much. You guys are very supportive of our law enforcement organizations. And that's huge. That's a big, yes, sir.
What's the best way to get involved and support you and stay in communication with you? And, back and forth.
Yeah.
Is that the Facebook page?
The Facebook page is wonderful. Yeah, Renee Bunting runs that. I think she has the fastest response in Facebook history. It's like less than 3 seconds. No matter what time of night it is. She sent me text right after that. It's a question. Just want to
See, I'll reach out.
But yeah, our Facebook page is, there's a lot of information on there and it's constant. We'll start putting things on our webpage.
Yep.
And then our local media sources help us out and come with that stuff. We'll start doing a lot of that.
Is there voluntary options that we can support you with?
Yeah, we have a posse organization, which is huge. Our HDSA is big in the county. There's a lot of ways to help. 15
Facebook.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you attend the US government terrorism alert? Didn't the sheriff's call the DC or FBI said with all these illegals coming in the United States that we could be more vulnerable to terrorist attacks? Did they?
Well, yeah, so
You have some
I
information on
didn't
that?
go to that national sheriff's thing. I've been to others. I will tell you everything we're hearing. Yeah, you have a lot of people coming across the border, just a lot. Not everybody is identified. There are some issues. Yes, do we have state enemies or countries that really don't like us? Well, when you don't close the border, those things start happening, right? So I think the biggest thing for everyone here is just to be vigilant. Call us when you see something. Tell us. Let us handle it. We don't want vigilantism, but we do want your help. That's what really helped us with the cartels and the black market marijuana. And that's what really ran it out of the community. And it's because you were calling us. I'd have 1,800 tips a day. And I was going through tips and all kinds of stuff to help us. And it was me. Yes, sir.
Do you know where Tulsa County currently stands as far as per capita gun ownership?
You all are responsible adults.
Yeah.
If you want to carry a handgun, do it. I will tell you this, Because some of the new laws, if you haven't got your concealed carry permit and you want your concealed carry permit, or you haven't renewed your concealed carry permit, do it soon. Because the new laws that are gonna come out are gonna make you get insurance. They're going to make you get a bond for having it, and it's gonna increase the cost to about $1,000 per person.
Open carry.
So I hopefully will see a rush of people coming in to get this. Okay,
Is it still open carry?
sorry,
Open carry state?
open carry is still. Now, there are some new laws that are attempting to stop you from being able to carry any type of public areas,
Yeah.
private areas, areas outside your home.
Outside your home.
Pretty much anywhere outside your home, you can be able to carry. So that's why it's incumbent, you gotta get on the legislative side, because there are some laws are really restricted on it. So. Yes, sir, in the back.
So regarding the sealed carry, I think they had a law going through for the post office. Now you can carry it to the post office. What about the sheriff's department? What facilities have you not carried?
You can't carry in the post office, it's a federal facility,
Federal building,
right?
courthouse,
Yeah, courthouses, we don't carry if we're off duty even, unless we have a reason to be there for something. So there are several places, and I think.
I can look it up.
I think Rocky Mountain Justice,
I
a
think
pretty
so.
good website on that. I would get on there and take a look. I'm not,
thank you.
yes, sir.
On your Facebook page or telephone page, is there some place that you would like for us to write our congressman about a particular item?
So Congressman, yes, but also the House and the legislatures. Those are the two. Yeah.
Our house.
Letters, by the time they get there, won't help because they don't care. The best is, I'll be quite honest, right? If they see you send us something to Clark County, you're probably gonna get that. Now, we've got great legislators. I got Mark Aisley, who's one of our senators in this area, wonderful person. Yeah, great. You also have, oh my gosh, we lost her name. Stephanie Lux, wonderful lady. You have, Brittany Patterson, she's actually a Democrat, but she's for the state of Colorado, or for, federal side. She's a good lady, I've sat and talked with her several times.
But I'm talking about what subjects would you want people in Taylor County to write about?
So that would be anything that we have current legislation, and you'll find that on our Facebook page, and then also on our county website.
Yeah, website.
But some of us wouldn't know if that's good legislation or not, so we need.
So what I will do is put on there that we support it or we don't support
That's
it. Okay, will that help?
That's what.
Yeah, we're actually supporting multiple bills this year. There's some good bills too that are helping us. There's one that expands the sheriff's authority in municipalities, right? Which is a good thing because I've had some issues. Well, I didn't have, other sheriffs have had issues where a city manager will come out and say, hey, you're not gonna evacuate the city, even though the federal forest service and the sheriff's going, you have to evacuate the city right now in this area. So that has been, now in wildland fires, that will now fall directly under the sheriff. For those discussions, doesn't matter if it's a city municipality or not, or if you're just a city fire. So it makes them all work together with us instead of separate. So that was a great bill. We had one on search and rescue to allow helicopter services. Great bill. That's gonna help us out. There was, what's the other one? I mean, there's quite a few that were in a support. Yeah. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that the speed limit on CR1, the real straight stretch,
Yeah.
is just too long.
So it could be, on that, I don't set those standards. What you'll have to do is, get with road and bridge, and I think they go by state law. That's also though, federal park. That's not just a county roadway, so some of that is also driven by the fossil beds. So there's reasons, I just couldn't tell you exactly why.
Okay.
Speaking of road. How much do you want to pull roads and you guys getting where you need to be?
I'll be honest, the wear and tear on our cars is crazy, right? I hate the fact when I'm driving my truck and I hit these potholes, it's costing me money. I think a lot of it is, it's just costs now, and then the fact is they're having a tough time getting people. Everything now is contracts. Well, the price of doing a road back in the day was whatever it was, it's almost 10 times as much now. So it's becoming hard. I know that our road and bridge is working hard on it. I will say this, if we have a snowstorm, we have an agreement and they work well with us on the fact that they come out and they'll plow ahead of us to get done where we fall, which is huge. So as a county staff, they're doing a great job. I don't know if any of you, even state highways are not what they used to be. And I go into Oklahoma or into another state, and I go, these roads. I don't understand why it happens. But yeah, our roads do hinder us a lot. I'll be honest, we had three head-ons last year with deputies. Because of how twisty turning our roads are, and we have somebody going too fast in a direction or intoxicated. Deputy, they're doing their normal thing, they're just driving, and somebody will come around a blind corner in their lane and just, we had them run 60, 70 miles an hour. Well, here's a good thing, right? We made sure that we got all the deputies in the Ford Expeditions, they're a bigger vehicle, they have more capabilities, they're just stronger body, more mass. I've had deputies, none of them, they got seriously injured, they walked away with scratches, few airbag work, burns, but I don't know if you've seen a lot of our deputies. Well, male and female, they are in shape. I've got some very good deputies at working out and doing their things, and they've taken some hits in the last year. But they do really well. So these cars, yeah, that's the position. It is one.
I think that maybe somebody on that.
Yeah, it is hard. It's wear and tear, I'm telling you. And I don't know, when you buy a new car now and get these factory tires, I don't know where they get these things. Good for us, I'm like, our county supported. Yeah, our county Sheriff Tom and I are good friends. We went to baby sheriff school. They have school actually. They call it baby sheriff school. He's a good guy. They've had a hard luck on getting deputies. I think they're way down. We were responding all the way out in Hartsel. I have a standing order in this county. Anybody that calls for assistance, we will respond. I don't care if it's at the end of the state. It just is. One of the reasons for that too is it's when I had major incidences, I could call those counties and they would send me. When we had the big fires, those types of relationships is really what makes it work. And it's been amazing. So, yeah, he's a great guy. Yes,
What
sir.
type do you want on the vehicle?
I think he has good riches.
Care too?
You got me.
Good year Wrangler.
Good Wranglers. Any other questions? Comments, needs? Folks, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.